Welcome to the Think Theory podcast. My name is Brian, and I'm here to help you build the life that you love by inspiring, leading, and motivating, and helping you have a better day than yesterday. Let's get it. Good morning, good afternoon, or wherever it is that you're watching, whatever time it is. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for sticking tuned with us. This is a little bit of a different episode. We did have a guest scheduled today, but he had something that came up that was a little bit unexpected that he needed to tend to. So we're gonna go ahead and reschedule that. But you're gonna have just me because I still want to provide an episode for you guys as I do regularly, and I want to continue this because my goal is I want to hit a certain amount of episodes, but not just any episodes. I want to obviously be providing the content that you guys both like and enjoy. So today it's just gonna be me, and we're gonna run with this. I don't really entirely know where I'm gonna go, what I have planned, but I'm just gonna go with things from the top of my head and go from there. It's probably one of the more difficult things that I've had to do because I've been working on taking the filter off of things and having a more raw and authentic conversation like I do when I'm off camera, to have that level of rawness on camera as well too. And it's not that I particularly filter things out. That's why usually when I sit and have a conversation with someone, that is the most raw, that's the rawest form, because I don't think about the camera, I don't think about anything else, which is really great. So this is a little bit different, but I've been trying to, I guess, just kind of, I don't know, if you guys can relate to this, I kind of just been in this crossroad where I'm trying to figure out what the heck it is the direction I want to go with my life. Because of course I want to continue this creation, and we established the podcast a very long time ago, and we took a long break because my son was born and all the stuff associated with it. But I have a direction with this, but then there's also this part of me where I kind of just feel like I'm stuck between what it is that where I want to go with things in life. Of course I have a regular job that I go to and do that, and then I do this on the side, and the goal is for that to flip-flop, where I go to my job part-time regularly, that. Well, I go part-time now, but flip it in the aspect where I would like to be able to do this more long-term, and then the job eventually less, and then eventually not at all. So one of the issues though that I've definitely been having is this deciding on what is the right path, and that kind of paralyzes me, because life is full of uncertainty, and no matter where you go in life, no matter what you're deciding, you really don't know how the outcome is going to be. You can make the best and most educated assumption, but ultimately things might work out, might not work out, or they might somewhat work out. And I don't know, I think that I'm kind of realizing that I'm more scared of that unknown than I was expecting. And I don't know if you guys can relate to that in any way, shape, or form, but it's especially nowadays with the state of the world, it's it's very difficult to allow yourself to be in a situation where you have to commit your all into it, your time, your effort, your energy, your intellectual capacity, to be able to build it into something that you want, which again, anything worth fighting for, you're going to have to, it's going to be an uphill battle. But to think about also the time that could be spent and you're not going to be able to get back, because I kind of come across this path where it's I realize not realize, but it's I don't care about money, but I care about money, if that makes sense. I care about money in the sense that I know that I need it. It's a tool that I needed to be able to make sure to take care of myself, my family, and all that stuff. But I don't care to go out and make a boatload of money. I've been in a position before where I've made what I would consider really good money at one point in my life. And, I made some bad decisions, for lack of better words, and essentially we lost it all. So I restart everything, which is kind of what I'm doing now, but it's the foundation is completely different. Money was driving that then. Money isn't driving this now. The things that I value at my core are more time with my family. I want a healthy life, healthy marriage, a healthy relationship with my son, both my wife, myself, and my family to just be healthy, and just to be able to spend time with them and be able to have really genuine and authentic memories that, I can hold for a lifetime, and to see the blessing that would be to watch my son grow up and go through all these different phases and stages in his life and be a part of that is something that's what I care about ultimately. And I realize, like, making money isn't, it doesn't matter how much money you have, like those things, like you don't need a lot of money to be able to create those things. And I guess that's where I'm at, because that's like I'm at a point where it's like, oh, I'm making more than enough that then I need to be able to provide those things and align it with who I am as a person, and the values that I provide for my family anyways. And like I don't need any more than I have, but I know that if I want to provide a better life where I have more time, more freedom, and flexibility, it's going to require a lot of money, a lot of time and effort. And but it's like I'm kind of torn in that road, because it's like I do want to make the more money because of the things that can come from having more money, and I know that I can make it. But at the same time, there's a part of me that's like, maybe you should just fall back though, and instead of making more money, just live a way more simpler life. Not because it's easier, because it's certainly, in my personal opinion anyways, living a much simpler life, especially nowadays, is really difficult. I mean, we're living in a world where materialism pretty much rules the world. I shouldn't say rules the world, but it's, at least especially here in the United States, like it is a very common thing for people to be controlled by materialistic things, and including myself. Plenty of, you guys can watch them in the YouTube channel and check it out, and that I've talked about it. We've talked about it with the previous guest that we've had on as well too. And it's, materialism is something that hands down controls a lot of people in the United States, but definitely the world. And I used to be in that same boat where I wanted like a car, a certain lifestyle, certain house and stuff like that. And those things are great, but like I've realized that I don't care for them anymore. They don't bring me any satisfaction, and if they do, it's a very short-lived satisfaction, right? What I'm looking is for a level of gratitude and joy that extends beyond what's of this world, right? And that's obviously why I decided to, pursue Christianity, because it aligned with the goals that I wanted to in my life. But also before that, there's just been a lot of different things that happened in my life that felt like God was trying to pull me closer to Him. And even that I struggle with. I guess I have I feel like a phony, for lack of better words, because as I'm learning things, I'm sharing these things with you guys, because they're helping me and they're impacting my life in a positive way. But the issue that I have is that as I learn things and grow as a person and share that with you guys, there are going to be there will be like certain points where I almost contradict further down the road what I said like in the past. And I think that that's okay, because it shows that you're changing and growing, and you're allowing you're allowing yourself to be able to be open to different perspectives and opportunities. And you might say something at one point in your life, but then down the road, that might change, because it might be more aligned to whatever it is that you're going through in your life at that point. And the phony part though for me comes in, because it's like I don't, the motto of this podcast is, helping you build the life that you love by inspiring, leading, and motivating. And that's where, I bring on these guests that I think have an incredible story, incredible value that you guys can benefit from, just from listening and seeing how they've approached things in their lives and gotten out of certain situations that are very common, especially in the United States. Unfortunately, such things as like getting out of poverty, or getting out of, violent neighborhoods, or gang related situations, and how they got through it and what changed their lives, and how they continue to grow as a person, and all these different things. And, but I guess I personally feel like I'm being a phony, because there's a part of me that's like, well, you haven't quite built the life that you love. And it's like, well, I have, in my definition, when I don't let the external influences of the world determine what a dream life looks like. And let me elaborate on that. Meaning, like I said, I care about my wife being healthy, my son being healthy, and myself being healthy, being able to spend time with my family, being able to do things with them and create memories, and to be able to foster a healthy environment for us to be able to talk and grow, not only with my wife as a couple, as a married couple, also as a father and a mother to our son. And by that definition, when I just focus on what Brian wants, I've accomplished that. So there's a certain part of me that just feels very content with that. And then when I think about how other people would view me from the outside looking in, they're going to be like, dude, you've got a long way to go. Because I've had close friends already in my life that are like, dude, you're not in the position to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And it's just like, maybe from where you sit at, and it's just become so difficult because it appears that in this world, you have not accomplished any level of success if you don't have what society deems to be a measurable form of success, whether that be wealth, status, power, even like not having a college degree. Like sometimes that I feel like, even though I know you don't need it especially in this world. I mean, it's never been easier to make money. I'm not saying that it's easy, but it's never been easier to make money ever in history than it is now. I mean, you can make money from the comfort of your own home, and I've done that. And you can make money. That's a whole different conversation we'll go down to. But anyways, so it's like money. It's like having a certain amount of money. It's determined, for lack of better words, like your success or you're successful or whatever. And like, it just feels that society does not allow you to have your own definition of success and be okay with that, right? Because it's not the social norm. And like especially one of the things that I struggle with as a man, I need to let myself be more masculine, right? Like, I feel like that's my duty. And taking Christianity completely out of it, I've always felt like it's always been the husband's role to be able to protect their family, to be able to provide for their family. I'm not saying he has to be the only provider, but to provide for their family, whatever that means too, because it could be an emotional, providing for your kids emotionally, providing for your wife emotionally, providing for yourself emotionally. It could be financially through a career, job, money, whatever the case may be. The providing element, obviously, it's a very broad term. And I've always believed that it's the male's role to be able to do that for the family, to be the protector, to be the provider in whatever capacity, and to always just be the grounding force for their family. However, once you throw Christianity in it, to expand more on that is like, I always feel that the man's job is it is their responsibility to develop themselves and to become a warrior, because that's who God intended us to be a warrior, to be there, to be protectors, to be providers, to be the leader of our house. And, like, it's further emphasized in Christianity, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. But like nowadays, it just feels like when any guy tries to do that, especially if there's a camera around, it's considered toxic masculinity, which is just, I can't even comprehend that, because just like women need outlets, men do too. And I mean, that's the entire reason why I started like this podcast as well. It wasn't just to help you build the life you love, but my goal was specifically to help men who are struggling in silence. Now, do the things we talk about apply to just more than men? Absolutely. But for the vast majority, I mean, all the guests that I've had on so far and the ones that I continue to have happen to be male. And it's not because I'm not sexist, but God forbid the internet is going to say that. Women, of course, have a tremendous amount of value to offer, but specifically what I want to focus on is the mental health of man, or of male, like in this world, because I feel like people need guidance, in general, but I feel like more than ever, men are under attack, and the ability to possess masculine traits is also under attack. And it's almost like your society's trying to force men to be these docile individuals. It's like, no, like, men need to be capable of danger. We need to be capable of violence. We need to be able to do that, right? Because like Jordan Peterson talks about this all the time, and I'm a firm believer in this. Like, there is no strength in choosing weakness or being more, what's the word here? I guess docile, when that's the only option you have, right? Like that doesn't take any strength if you're a weak individual. And I don't mean weak physically, though I'm sure that contributes to it, but I mean like weak spiritually and emotionally, right? If you're a weak individual in those elements, that's just who you are. There's no strength in that. Now, to be the polar opposite, to be a man who's capable of violence, to be a man who's capable of danger, and has a strong spirituality and a strong emotional regulation, like it requires a lot of strength and willpower to be able to allow yourself to have that type of control. And that's someone that you want, because that's not just a representation of, I'm saying that like that's someone that you want. I don't mean just in a relationship. I mean like those are the type of people you want around you, because those are the type of people you know you can rely on, and that can hold their own and also help others as well too. That's what I mean to clarify that. But it's like, it takes strength to be able to regulate these things, and be able to push through, especially if you're not born as this weak individual, and you have these, like, I feel like men from a biological perspective are just wired completely different than women are, and call it what you may. And I think that there's this natural tendency that men have to be able to be more barbaric. That's the word that I'm going to say. And I think that a lot of men in society have that tendency, and they need to learn to be able to dial that back and learn to regulate that. And I think that people that don't learn to regulate that, don't learn to control it and fuel it, is how we get a lot of the violence that we have nowadays. It's a whole bunch of men trying to find a way to regulate and balance those and meet that desire that they have to be barbaric in a society that doesn't essentially allow us to be that way. For obvious reasons, of course, versus like, over time, we've learned to condition men to not be that way, which is like, okay, we can make the argument. Yeah, of course you want men not to be barbaric and all these crazy things. We're not in the caveman era, whatever it is that you believe. We're not in the beginning of time where men are just these, like it was a survival thing, right? We're in a much different time in the world and the universe where that is not something that's needed. You don't need to go hunting for your food. You can go to the grocery store, even though that's a different conversation we'll get into here. But like, hunting's obviously a good thing. And it's a very primitive thing for us to do. Like, you don't need to be so primitive, for lack of better words, in the world that we live in today. So it's like, over time, I feel like men have gotten more, they've been trying to domesticate more and more men to be a little bit more, this is going to sound bad, but it's the principle of what I'm going to say. It's like taking a dog, like a wolf, right? And over time, just beginning to domesticate them. And over generations and generations and generations of trying to do that, it's like that's how you get the modern dog, right? Like, there's so many dogs that don't have these violent tendencies that they once did, because they live in a world where they don't need to do that. They don't need to do this particular thing, to survive, because now they realize that, okay, food's being given to them, that their needs are being met in a whole completely different way that doesn't require them to put in the effort that they once did. That's the same principle, I feel like, when it comes to males in society nowadays, right? And that's the domestication of like dogs. It's like, I feel like how society's trying to do with men and domesticate them and suppress them. And I think that that's causing a real identity issue, identity crisis internally, where they feel that they have to be a particular way, but society's forcing them to be a different way. And it creates this division, this source of just confusion internally. And it's something that I feel like a lot of males struggle with this, and I think we need more guidance in that. Now, me personally, a lot of the stuff that I just talked about mentioned, I have that desire to do so, and I have not, well, I shouldn't say I have not. I started that journey a long, long time ago, and I'm continuously working. I mean, I'll be working on that for the rest of my life, right? It's not one thing where you get to a certain point and you just stop. No, it's a practice. It becomes a lifestyle, something that you have to continuously practice and refine and get better at, and then continue as you learn to share with other people. And that's essentially the whole point of this podcast. As I continue to learn things from not only my experiences, but the experiences of other people who've been in way worse environments or in a whole different journey of life, and they've experienced a whole set of adversities, and share what they've learned. I want to learn from them, and hopefully I too can provide value for them. And in terms, I hope that I can share that with you guys, so you guys can build the life that you love. But to go back on full circle, what I was saying is like, it just feels like sometimes I feel like a phony, for lack of better words, because I know from a societal standpoint, if you look at my life, I may not be entirely successful, in that aspect, but I feel pretty damn good inside vast majority of the time. Now, the issue that I have is because there's that barbaric side inside of me. I'm using that loosely, but because there's that desire to be the protector, to be the warrior that I have, like, I need to find a healthier way to be able to develop myself to be a better version of myself in this world, while feeding that urge, for lack of better words. And my issue for me is that so alcohol was something that I struggled with. I had a bit of an addiction to alcohol many years ago, and it didn't make sense to me necessarily why I got addicted to it. I just remember that the reason why is because the more that I drank, the more that I realized I'm like, man, like the thoughts just kind of stop. They get very suppressed, very down. I'm very in the moment. I'm very focused. I'm not thinking about the past. I'm not thinking about the future. I'm just existing, and I'm having a good time. And there's like that numbing effect that goes with alcohol. Well, long story short, obviously I realized where that was going to lead me. And I realized that wasn't a good way to be able to handle what I was feeling. And that got replaced shortly after with a pornography addiction, because the pornography addiction, which I didn't discover until recently, has been the thing that has provided for me that feeling of, has provided like this in the moment anyways. It's not a before or after things. In the moment when it has happened, it has provided for me the feeling that I have gotten when I have been in a state of survival. I function very well when I am in survival mode. I don't know if it's a common thing for other males, so if you guys are watching this and you're a male and you can relate to this, please leave a comment down below, share, because I'm really curious. But I was having this conversation with my best friend. He was in the army, and he was a combat medic in the army and stuff. And we were just sitting, we were just talking about this, and he was explaining to me that like he functions very well under pressure, and that prompted a very deeper conversation. Essentially, I was telling him the same freaking way. Like, I feel like I can't breathe until I'm in a state of survival. Like, my life is just constant suffocation, trying to get air until I put myself in a situation or life just happens where I have to be in a state of survival. And I have many examples of that in my life, but everything just kind of tends to slow down. I'm very in the moment. I have confidence in the decisions that I'm making, and it just feels like an incredible high when I am in a state of survival. Now, that is something that he says he feels, and he feels his best at that moment. And to be fair, we both have a traumatic past. So I don't know if the traumatic past is the reason why we do that, but I can tell you that over an extensive period of time of being in a state of survival, that's all you know. That's all your mind knows. That's all your body knows. And it takes a while to break that cycle. So because like I realized probably 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, I can't keep living this way. It's not healthy for me to continue to live in a constant state of survival. Because, I mean, first of all, that's just stress to begin with. And stress wreaks havoc on your body. It is incredibly terrible for you. I mean, like, I think the stress hormone is cortisol. And when cortisol is released in your body, it could create disease for your body. Like, you put your body at this ease, No pun intended there. But anyways, Um, yeah, so like I realized that I can't continue to live in that way. So at that time, I made the decision, all right, it's time to get out of this state of survival, because I've been at that point in a state of survival for 20 plus years. And so I began doing the work to be able to not be in a continuous state of survival. And as a result, what do you know? I slowly, over time, got to a point where, you know, I don't feel like I need to be in a state of survival. And I started enjoying life more. But I didn't last very long, because then I started to get stressed out when things were okay. I started to get stressed out when I couldn't explain it, for lack of better words, but when things were going okay in my life and there was no reason to stress and I was actually relaxed, it just caused me an intense amount of stress. And again, it wasn't until recently that I was able to put in the words that immediately afterwards, what I would do is that stress in itself is what caused me to seek something like pornography as a way to be able to cope with that feeling. And I would feel that feeling constantly. And it was the willpower to try to suppress that down, to put it down and not give in to the temptation of watching pornography that was just exhausting all the time. I mean, it was worse than being in a state of survival. Like, even at a state of survival, I didn't have these tendencies, these lustful tendencies, the urge to want to watch, like pornography and stuff like that. The state of survival in itself, like I had complete control over my mind, which is, it's such a good feeling. And when I say complete control, meaning like, when you got to do something in your life, but you don't want to, you don't have the energy or the tendency to do it, or whatever the case is. And you're like, you know what? We'll push it off another hour or another day or another week or whatever. We'll get to it. We don't need to do it. It's not a priority. And that tends to like kind of happen. You're just kind of kicking the bottle down the road. When I would have that situation, when I was in a state of survival, immediately I would just say no. And I'd be able to grasp that and not let it get to a point where it was bad. It's like, this is what you need to do. And when I was at peak state of survival, for lack of better words, I was this is going to be weird, the healthiest, I'm using that loosely, that I've ever been. Meaning I was going to the gym consistently. I was eating better. I packed on like 20 to 30 pounds of mass over like the next, since I started that when I was in a state of survival and started working out. It was like a year and a half, 2 years before, I started. I mean, there was definitely fat. See, like that what I mean. I'm trying to filter myself because I'm thinking, oh, well, someone on the internet is going to go and be a keyboard warrior and tired of, there's no way that you put on that much muscle in 2 years. Whatever. I mean, I just put on mass. I'm going to say that in general, okay? 20 to 30 pounds of mass in like 2 years. And it was the heaviest I've ever been. I was going to the gym consistently. I had control over my mind. My finances were in order. Like everything, my house, spiritually and mentally felt like they were in order. But the only crappy part about it is that I felt stressed out. It was burning, like it was this knot in my chest that wouldn't unwind. And that's when I'm, made the decision. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep living this way, because what's causing me to feel this way is allowing myself to stay in a continuous state of survival. But now, like, put it in the flip side and not being in a state of survival, like I just don't know what to do with myself. I don't know what to do with my life. It feels like. Like even though I go to a job and I make the money that I do and I work and I do, my job well, and it's nice to be able, like I just function well under pressure. And I don't know if that's a normal thing for men. Is it a normal thing for just people in general who've been in, who've had traumatic past? Is it a normal thing for like men who've had a traumatic past, you know what I mean? And that's why they're like that, or just all men in general? I don't know. Like I have all of these different questions because I've gotten to a point where it's like I don't know what normal is, for lack of better words. And I've never explored that with anyone else, because usually the people that I've been around and have been my best friends for this, like they've experienced an immense amount of trauma as well too. So it's like my norm, that is my experience and that's my norm, but is that a norm in general? And it mainly not because I care to be the same as everyone else, but more because I have like I guess, a guiding point, a guidance. If I don't feel this way and I'm above that point, I need to bring it down, for lack of better words. I kind of like returning my body to like homeostasis, for lack of better words. I don't know how to explain that aside from that, because it's just, you get to this fight or flight, and I've always just stood and fought, and powered my way through it. And I think that's also part of the reason to why um, I've gotten. I didn't develop this mentality until I really try to get myself out of a like a state of survival. Um, is I just get so exhausted at the idea of putting any energy into something else, because I want to be able to acquire these things, but at the same time, I'm just tired of getting just sandbagged from life, trying something and then it fails, and then it continues to fail, and then it continues to fail. And then you see people around you like succeeding, some people that are like doing the exact same thing that you're doing, and then all of a sudden they're just blowing past you, and it's like, man, there must be something wrong with me, or maybe I'm not providing the value that I think I'm providing, and then all these different things. And then you have other people that you've helped, like for example, like this is difficult for me because there's no way to gauge the kind of value that I have, because you need data for that, and depending on where we're uploading, it's like there may not be enough data to do it, because you need a large data sample, like a very large data sample. And that's the only way that I know to provide value, aside from the fact that I've been doing this for like 10 plus years with other people way off camera, before I even consider even starting a YouTube channel or live streaming, or creating the Think Theory podcast. Like, I've been doing this for many years, and those people that I've helped their lives have literally been changed in for the better, and they've gone and acquired what they define to be success. And it's like, man, they're literally doing it. So it's like, there's got to be some kind of value in what I'm providing, I don't know. But then I also think about, maybe these conversations that I'm having are just really complicated, and sometimes people are just easy. Like, it's easier for people to numb things than it is to accept the reality of life, or their life specifically. And I mean, I can relate to that. Hence the alcohol. When I was using alcohol, that's exactly what I was doing. I was numbing the reality of what my life was, the state of my life, the state of my mind, the state of my emotional state, like everything. It was easier to numb it, to drink it away, than and then actually face it, because I didn't know how to face it. I don't even know how to start that, because it's kind of like a Pandora's box, man. The minute you open that thing, the minute you go down that route, you're taking everything. You don't know what's going to come out. You might have some memory that you completely forgot about, that affected you for many years in your life, that completely like just bombard you with overwhelming negative emotions, because you thought, man, I completely forgot that happened. But like, your brain just did such a good job of suppressing it, that when you open that box and you decide to look in the mirror and really point yourself out and call yourself out, like, you're going to get it all. You're just going to get everything with it. Good, the bad, the in between, and that's really complicated to deal with. It's scary to deal with, especially if you're dealing with it by yourself. And I don't recommend that anyone that's watching here, like that's going through this, that you do anything by yourself. Like, I'm so tired of that like seeing the hustle culture, for lack of better words. I guess maybe that's not even a hustle culture, just the lone wolf thing. Like, you can be a lone wolf if the situation requires you to you have no choice but to do that, but that should not be your first option. You shouldn't be alone, because even the person, like, let's just say in a hypothetical, which is a thing that's happened, there's one guy who decides he's going to stay quiet, he's going to grind, he's going to go to the gym, he's going to keep his head down, and he's going to, continue to build and work on his business and build it up and build it up and build it up. And I can guarantee you that even if he doesn't have a significant other or his own family or whatever, that there are still people in his life that play a role in his success, whether you see it or not, right? And sometimes playing that role could be something as simple as, like, you go to work, and work helps to detach from that mentality. So it's like a reset. You get a little bit of a breath of fresh air, for lack of better words, where you're not just constantly going, right? And sometimes people don't realize that something as simple as work, or the people that you work with, whatever the case may be, that they help in those particular elements, in those little aspects. And this is the problem that I have. I just think about everything, all these different things. And it's like, That's both good and bad, because sometimes you overanalyze things and it's just, you just stay frozen because it's like, man, you don't even know where to go, and you just kind of have to pick one and go with it, which is, you know, part of the reason why I guess I started this, because I realized that I have a lot of things that I've learned just through over analyzing, and I want to share that with you guys, and I want to share that, or I want you guys to, again, hear. I've already gone to why I started this. Actually, I'm not going to go back to it. But yeah, it's definitely been something that's just, it's not easy to deal with, and it's complicated, and to go back on it, you know, I want people to stop feeling like they have to suffer in silence. They don't have to suffer in silence. I don't want people to feel like they have to walk in this life alone. Like, it's relating to my traumatic past, which if you guys haven't already know what that is, go into the YouTube channel, check it out. There's videos that talk about it. Other podcast episodes I've talked about it. Just don't want to beat a dead horse with it, because I realized that it's very easy for me to talk about it, that I can drop some very heavy things almost so nonchalantly that it just comes off like, at least to me, it's come off like I'm wearing like a badge, it's like a badge of honor or whatever, which is not how I intend to come off. I've just been able to work through it so much that it's easier for me to talk about. But anyways, I don't want anyone that may be watching or living life or has experienced a traumatic past to have to feel like they have to deal with things alone. And I know for the longest time that was my issue. I felt like I had no one that understood me. No one. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, there would be people in my friend group that give me advice and stuff like that. But it's like, no matter how much advice they give me, it's like, no, you're not. Like, everything just constantly felt like you guys still don't understand like you're, and the reality is too, if you're in a situation where you're dealing with trauma or you've experienced trauma, you know, like, you have to realize that unless they are you and they experience the same thing, it's almost damn near impossible for them to be able to fully relate. They can emphasize, and sympathize. English is hard, but anyways, they can they can do their best to be able to relate to what you've gone through, but it's really difficult to understand what that's like unless you've gone through it yourself, or can be in your exact same shoes, for lack of better words. And that's something that took me a while to understand that, because unless you become very descriptive with your words and the things that you've gone through, and you practice the art of articulating your thoughts in a very detailed way that can paint a picture to whomever is listening, that there's no way they're going to even remotely understand what you've gone through, you know, because they can only understand and relate to it as best as you can describe it. And I've realized that because, you know, my wife she had to deal with a lot of these, you know, a lot of my trauma, you know, with the PTSD and everything was a big one. She's never had to deal with any of that in any of her previous relationships. You know, it was like she went from just being in a relationship with regular people to someone who has a lot of baggage, honestly, you know, and as a result of that, those baggages, she was not ready to deal with that. You know, even though she knew what she was going into the relationship with, because I was upfront with her, she couldn't have begun to even imagine what it would have been like, and the things that she had to like learn to work with, and what to do and what not to do. And it required a lot of effort in that aspect from her. And again, you know, that's just a part of, unfortunately, people who deal with any kind of traumatic event in their life. You know, now there's all different types of extensive trauma, so it may not be that severe for you guys, but for some people it might be even way more severe than I ever had it, you know. And nonetheless, what I'm trying to say is I just don't want anyone to feel like no one understands them. And by wearing my garbage on my sleeve and also having people on that wear their garbage in the sleeve, and sure, you know, they can hopefully, when they're listening to this podcast, can have the emotion of or that sense of relatability that I have felt when I have come across other people who have created such content, where it's like, dang, I don't have to be, maybe I'm not so crazy. Maybe I'm not so, what I'm feeling isn't so, what's the word? Different, I guess, for lack of better words. Like, I'm not the only one dealing with this thing, and then sometimes when you're in a state of survival and you're going through these, you're trying to overcome the traumatic past, like, you truly do feel like, man, I don't think anyone feels like that. I've heard that many times from people who've opened up to me about their life, and it's open dialogue is probably one of the strongest things that we can have, especially nowadays. And I don't think that is happening enough without creating some kind of division or just people not being able to respectfully disagree. Because, like, we can have opposing views and still be like friends and still be able to talk to each other and still be able to relate and have a genuine respect for each other from a like human to human perspective, from a humanitarian perspective. Like, it doesn't need to be this black and white, one side or the other, and I feel like that's where it's definitely come to in 2021. 2023, sorry. I went back 2 years. It's been like that for a good bit, and I don't believe that social media doesn't help the issue in the sense that it gives an audience to people that can create polarization. But to some extent, then I think about it, I'm like, well, dude, but to some extent, aren't you creating polarization because you're trying to essentially share your perspective and saying that your perspective is the better way? And it's like, these are the back and forths that go through my mind. It's why it makes it so difficult for me to be able to sit and pick one particular thing. But when I have chosen that one particular thing, it's like when I have that back and forth in my mind, I choose one thing and then I analyze it and I'm like, okay, how is this helping me as a person? And then, which is completely anecdotal, once I actually refine that process and see why it works and, like, for lack of better words, make mental bullet points, usually I actually end up writing a lot of these things down just because for my own sake, or I'll make a video out of it to share with you guys. And then I'll share that with other males that I come across in my life, and they easily can relate to it. And it just makes it seem like it's more and more common. Obviously, that's not a study conducted across 10,000 men where you can actually have a huge data pool, so it's completely anecdotal, but it just goes to show that there is this need that male in general have, and it needs to be met, and they don't have a proper outlet that society allows them to pursue without damning them. And I know you guys may be thinking, dude, why are you talking about male, like women experience these things? I'm sure they do. And to some extent I can talk about it, but I'm a guy. I'm not a female. So I can't speak on those things. And there's a female that does have more of these points and they want to talk about it. They want to share about it and want to come on, by all means. I don't mind having an open conversation so long as you can be respectful, open-minded, and actually be able to carry the dialogue, because I don't think that this is one-sided, but I can't speak to a whole different gender when I'm not that, So obviously that's why I'm coming from a male perspective, hence why I'm focusing on being able to influence. I hate that word. I don't like that. That sounded slimy. Influence is a bad word. I don't want to say. I want to be able to share. I want to encourage critical thinking by presenting the things that have helped me in my life and others who've experienced things in life, and seeing if those who are capable of critical thought, if they can benefit from it. I don't want to force it down their throats. And I know that sometimes it feels like it. Like, that's like the weird part. And I mentioned to this about the first episode that we did on the podcast with Lane. You guys can go ahead and check that out. It just feels like as I'm talking about these things, I don't want to come off as if I am forcing them down you guys' throats. And obviously that's not what I'm trying to do, but it can easily come off that way because it's very, I guess, polarized would be the word. Like, it's very one-sided. and it's mainly because I'm speaking from my perspective, my experiences, and those are that's exactly it. They're just my experiences, and it's what I've learned from them, and they're not wrong because it's my experiences. Just like what you've gone through in your life, whether good or bad, they're your experiences, and you're not wrong for thinking or feeling the same way. But where we can determine if it's right or wrong, right or wrong's not beneficial or not to your long-term success, is seeing if whatever mental state, actions, spiritual state, emotional state, physical state, how all those things combine can contribute to getting you closer to whatever your goal is in life, whatever you define to be success, right? Because someone watching, your definition of success might be that you have enough money that you're like, you know what, I want to buy some property and I want to put a 5,000 square foot house in there, versus someone else might be like, no, I want to buy a van, I want to transform it, and I want to travel, and I want to be able to make money wherever I go. Like, there's so many, success is such a broad term, and what that looks like is completely different for other people. So I think it's important, as I share these things, as you hear other people share things, as we have more open discussion, as we continue to grow as individuals and in this channel and this podcast, that you take everything that we say and see how those things can either benefit you or maybe push you away from getting to whatever those goals are in your life. Now, a goal setting is probably a whole different conversation, and if you guys want to know about that, we can definitely talk about that, because I know it's going to come up in a podcast we have scheduled. Hopefully that one doesn't fall through, because I have been trying to get him on the podcast for 4 months, but he's a very busy guy. He's a good dude. You guys are going to like him. So just definitely keep your eyes open, or your ears open for that. And if you guys are watching on YouTube, turn on the notifications and subscribe, because that's really going to help out, to make sure that you guys don't miss any other episodes. If anything that I said in any way, shape, or form is something that you can relate to or enjoy and want to know more about, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, so that way you can be a part of this discussion. I wouldn't mind having these not just in the comment section, or having some of you guys on as well too, because I love seeing other people's minds and how it works. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys at next episode. Thank you.